Welcome, happy new moon. I'm Brian Hemmer here with the Inevitable You, also joined by Isabella Sumner, daughter of the creator of the Inevitable You. And so this is something that we have done for years. It's a tradition, something that we've done mostly internally. Had some live sessions years ago that we would do over at the Sumner House. And it's just a time to reflect, looking at the last 28 days, the last lunar cycle, what's been happening, what were the themes that were going on, what are some of the things that have changed, or, some of the themes that we've covered in past new moons, what happened, what didn't happen, and now preparing for the next lunar cycle. So we are moving into Libra, and so I've got 11:55 a.m. on Saturday is the official time of the new moon. And it also coincides with a solar eclipse happening at the same time. So this is a super special one. Anytime there's an eclipse, it just makes the energy even more powerful. Typically, eclipses are, very transformative. They can bring challenges, confrontation, sometimes chaos. So a lot of times things can be changed very quickly. And the same holds true with new moons. It's just oftentimes eclipses make things heightened, right? So in each new moon, we're looking at, again, what are we paying attention to for the themes of the new moon, even themes of the solar eclipse. Each new moon has their own unique energy behind it, that corresponds to certain areas of your life. And that's from both a collective perspective, right, the entire planet, and an individual perspective based on your unique, energy, your unique astrological makeup. So these ceremonies, we're going to be doing more of a holistic collective perspective. We'll pull some tarot cards, draw some inspiration, again, things to pay attention to. How do we set intentions to best set ourselves up for potential changes or goals that we want to achieve? And yeah, anything you'd add to that, Isa?
We just always say it every single time that the Inevitable You is really a collective of many things. And one thing that we've always brought into play is just that thought around demystifying. So if this is something that you're not familiar with or first time kind of hearing, or even you think like, okay, new moon, meh, mumbo jumbo, just know that there's a space for you, whether you're interested or not. Brian and I are just really continuing on something that Bill himself was really passionate about, which was the thought there is a lot out there that we don't necessarily have answers to, and we can just take what we want. And sometimes the information you get is going to be even more powerful for you, and sometimes it might not land. And either way, whichever spot you are, there's just something to be said about having that collective and the community to stay inspired within.
Yeah, absolutely. And always in a standard intro here, I like to remind, what's the importance of new moons? Why are we even doing this? Well, we're honoring the motions of the natural energy and forces that are at work, right? Just as the moon affects the tides of the ocean, the moon also affects our own emotion, how we think and feel. And so just honoring that, and it's just as you would follow the standard calendar, whether you set goals at the first of the year or the first of the month. This is just another way to think about it, another way to do that while honoring the natural motions and forces at work here. So, with that said, what do we have to look forward to, Isa? What's the forecast for this lunar cycle?
Fun part. Kidding, it's all fun. Okay, yeah, so Brian briefly touched on it. We are stepping into a new moon this weekend in Libra. Libra is a cool sign. It's an air sign. There is a little bit of fire within it because it is ruled by Venus, which is just a planet that has a little more passion. And just some of the things that are happening in our solar system will lead to having a little bit more of that fire energy, even though it is an air sign. One thing I brought up is the fact that we're now also going into a solar eclipse. So not only do we have a new moon this weekend, but we have a solar eclipse, which the Libra solar eclipse is going to bring us a little more motivation and inspiration to change the dynamics of primarily right now relationships. So that's going to be kind of the heavy theme. What's really cool about having an eclipse on this new moon is the energy usually lasts for about 3 days. It's not just something that like, oh, here's your eclipse and it's gone. It kind of has a lingering effect. So you can use the next 3-4 days to really dig into the energy and resources that you are looking for and how you would like to see that same presence in return. So the Libra is a balance, right? If you saw the Libra little horoscope sign, it's usually prominently displayed as a scale. So we're going to talk a lot about how are you balancing yourself. In our past new moons, you know, we've talked about, okay, you've planted your seeds. Now you've started to notice the seeds are working. Maybe something isn't. Let me readjust. This one's going to be more, not even necessarily about what's coming forward. It's just taking a big overview picture on seeing what's kind of happening in your world. So on the new moon in Libra, the veil between the subconscious and conscious is going to be lowered. So one thing that you'll notice within this is that you might actually have some more of your shadows appear, which shadows should never be looked upon as a negative. They are usually what in our world, in the inevitable you, we would describe as patterns, things that maybe pop up that were programmed into you at a very young age that you didn't even know existed until maybe you get into a relationship and you're like, holy moly, I am this person in a relationship because my mom and dad taught me that this is how I should do it. Now, shadows are something we obviously want to work through. And a lot of times shadows will become more apparent when you are working with somebody who's in your karmic journey to essentially bring those shadows up. So you might find yourself a little more easily triggered right now. Don't necessarily think of that as a bad thing. Just know that you might maybe say or do something that you regret down the line. It's just going to be what happens. And triggers are really just an opportunity for you to process emotions that maybe you've never received the attention for or really deserve when they initially occurred. So it's asking you to step into your triggers and start to deal with them, which can be hard, right? We always write it off as like, oh, I'll just deal with it later. Ooh, that sounds scary. No, we want in this to find the balance of honoring and respecting where the pattern, or in this case, the trigger came from, and leaning into it a little bit, finding that control over it. I brought up karmic journey. Right now, just know that there's going to be a lot that shows up in relationships. Not all of it needs to be met with dramatics. And the best way to think about it is that as you're doing some of this new moon intention work, really consider the people that are in your life. Do you feel that you have people in your life that are meant to be there? Do you feel like you have people in your life that are like, ugh, I mean, man, I know they're there, but oh, the thought of hanging out with them, talking to them, I don't love it, right? That's not necessarily to say that they're not going to stay, but there's a clear balance that needs to happen to essentially release some of the triggers that are going to come through. With that in mind, it's a very powerful time. Eclipses are really known to bring a lot of miracles and spontaneous shifts that can really change trajectories of our lives. They may not be apparent right away. They could evolve over the next 6 months to a year. They might also happen over the next week to 2 weeks. They're just going to be something that may not necessarily be as prominent, but it is a time of change because you are eliminating things that are no longer needed on your karmic journey. You're working through those triggers and asking again for those opportunities to process emotions and just really giving you a chance to be your authentic self. So really, overall, what you're trying to do is you're clearing out to make space. That could be in relationships. That could be in your triggers, your mental capacity. We're looking at specifically relationships right now. And if that doesn't lean with you, it could just be the relationship you have with yourself. Don't worry. You don't need other people in your life to experience triggers. You can do it on your own. You're very talented like that if nobody's told you. So it doesn't necessarily have to be one person. Maybe you just have been going through mental struggles right now, and this is a great opportunity to really sink into it. Who do you have in your life, and maybe who have you outgrown? It is okay to think that maybe you've outgrown people, and this is a really beautiful, safe space to honor the karmic journey you've had with them, and just ask your guardian angels, your God, your whatever you may pray to to just create a peaceful finalization with it. And then it's really about that true thought of, right, showing up as the best version of you. The eclipse and your Libra season right now is really going to ask you to say, don't hide those little spots of you anymore. It really wants you to find out what your triggers are, because your triggers are going to show up when you step into that room and have the conversation that you would have normally maybe not wanted to have, because you'd be like, oh, I'm scared that they might actually think this of me. Is tossing all of that out. The last thing to just know is another planetary thing that's happened as of yesterday is our Pluto station direct. Pluto's been in a pretty prominent retrograde, and I know there's the argument, is Pluto a planet? Regardless of whatever Pluto is, he is a part of our solar system. A planet that's really known as a planet of rebirth, as transformation and death. Don't look at those words as like scary, right? Our plant crops go through transformation and death every year. Then they have rebirth, and then they transform. With it going direct, just know that the energy that we feel this weekend is going to be even bigger. So if this weekend you go into it and you're like, wow, everything feels heavy, I'm maybe a little sad, like look at what's happening even right now in the Middle East. And this is not to bring up any kind of political conversation. It's just to say that there is something very apparent happening within our planet. And it is really clear that there is a big change coming, and in which that change is going to be very heavily dependent on the fact that we have some really big planets in play currently. I think I hit on anything. I just want to repeat this right now, that the veil between the subconscious and conscious will be lowered with the solar eclipse, making your shadows more apparent. It's a time of challenge, confrontation, and change. And what we really are focused on here, specifically at the Inevitable You, is knowing that it is okay to feel challenged. It is okay to feel like, holy moly, this change feels damn well near impossible. There are resources if you start really seeking out those relationships that are going to show up for you because they value your true self. You're going to start to further lean into your karmic journey of knowing that you're on the right path. And it may not be, oh, you wake up tomorrow and great, you're done. It could look like, again, in the next few months, you start to just feel those subtle shifts. Do a lot of breath work. And I mean a lot. Breath is your lean in sign right now, because again, Libra is an air sign. So the more you can breathe, breath is your life source. You can't go too long without it. So be really taking the time to pause. Maybe you start to feel frustrated. Step back, take an exhale, let some of the breath go. Find a deep inhale. It's not just some high in the sky hippie doodah stuff that they teach in yoga. There's a lot of real truth that comes out of, again, the continuously power of really centering with yourself and finding some balance. Because when you find balance on the inside is when, again, you can continually show up for the people on the outside.
Awesome. Love it. Yeah. Well, one, Pluto will always be a planet. I don't care what anyone says. Pluto's a planet to me. Yeah, sounds like a lot of things happening around this one. Again, with the solar eclipse, with Pluto, which I wasn't aware of. And I just wanted to touch on, what you said about the veil being lifted between the conscious and the subconscious. A lot of the things that I was picking up on and reading through posts and articles and stuff for this new moon and the eclipse is, it's not necessarily a time to, be setting in manifestations, but the intentions that you're setting really, I think, should be centered around just being with it. Like you said, I think you said, like, making the space or just surrendering to whatever's going to be revealed. Because if you think that 90% of how we operate, how we think, how we feel, the actions that happen as a result or don't happen, really come out of the subconscious mind. The subconscious is responsible for over 90% of how we operate. And so I think this is a very opportune time, just to sit with it, just pay attention to it, see what comes up. It could be trying to think of a good example here. Like you mentioned relationships. Maybe there's some subconscious thing, or maybe there's a shortcoming that or a flaw that comes up that you've been maybe trying to hide or not wanting to reveal in a relationship, or maybe fears that come up in that kind of shadow aspect. Really sit with it. What is this really about? How could I move forward from this, or who would I want to show up now coming out of this eclipse time, this new moon time? How do I want to show up differently, or how do I want to deal with this fear or subconscious thing that's being revealed to me? I think it's just very important. Is that making sense?
Oh, 100%. And to add on to it, that's why I said it doesn't necessarily, when I say relationship, necessarily mean like, oh, you and your partner. It could be a relationship with yourself. This could be a relationship you have with money, with food, with insert whatever you might maybe be feeling as a bigger emotional stimulant lately. So it's getting into like, what is my self-care routine? Is it supporting my physical, emotional, spiritual well-being? What is my relationship with my shadow self? Again, in the you world, we talk about it as more as your programs. We all have a shadow self, and there's nothing wrong with it. It is really beautiful when you can start to work with it and then really learn a new layer of yourself that you never maybe recognized in the first place. What you do to make compromises in order to be more invested? Is the compromise taking away from your values? So if you're starting to lose yourself, then are you remaining within the authentic truth of who you are? Probably not. So that might not be the relationship you want, because if you're not showing up as who you are in your deep core, then how are you going to listen? You're not going to be able to see. You're going to be blinded by the negativity and the external, lack of better terms, bullshit that's thrown at you as almost a distraction so that you don't get into the deep. So when you start doing this work, it is really asking you to say, hey, I may not always love the way I feel when I do this. On the other side of it, though, the deep work, when that veil is thin, is going to just reveal truths that, and other times might just show up for you as anxiety. We live in a society where we lean heavily into that term, and I think there's a lot of truth to it, but because that's your shadow self literally screaming to get out, to say, I need you to address something that is happening, and it keeps coming up. A pattern is going to show up and show up and show up until you actually address it and change the pattern.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, sitting with whatever comes up, and instead of maybe how I think it's very common, we'll use strategies to deal with our subconscious, be it fears or, again, shortcomings, things we're self-conscious about. It could be we turn to food or alcohol or, something to distract us from really dealing with the thing that's occurring for us. It could be, I have to have this difficult conversation with my partner or with a friend or something, or I, have to go work out instead of maybe drink, to actually deal with this, whatever is coming up, whatever that subconscious is revealing to you. I think that could be a good example of an intention, just that you're going to sit in the it could be very well be very uncomfortable to do it, but in doing that, it's like the butterfly metaphor that we love to use here. It's, you sit in that uncomfortable chrysalis and then emerge out the other side to really soar. So, I think that captures it.
I agree.
Reading through my notes here, see if there's anything. Yeah, huge fan of yoga. I make a point of doing that a couple times a week. The benefits are just too much I feel like I have a bad week if I don't do my yoga, because just the breathing, the making space in your body, moving emotion around, 100% recommend that. And
Sitting next to you, is she telling you to say that? Just kidding.
No, she's actually teaching yoga right now. So
I just, let me giggle real quick at that one.
So, I want to get to pulling some cards.
Yes. I know you can't see me, I believe everybody else can. For those who are still on, for the later portion of this recording, I always use the messages from your angels deck, just as our homage to Bill. It was his, and I think it's a great way to just bring him into the mix. What we'll generally do is just provide like an overall reading, kind of just asking for the collective, what message do we need? What continued spots can you maybe ask? And again, as we said at the beginning, it could resonate with you, it could not. Don't necessarily need to attach anything to it other than just knowing, take what you need, leave what you don't want. It's part of the relationships. And of course, if you ever have any further questions or would want your own tarot card reading, Brian and I are always available.
Yeah, or even if you want to do it while we're live here, if you're cool with that, I'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely. So I pulled Archangel Raphael, so everybody can see. And his message is, I'm helping you heal physical challenges in yourself and others. You are a healer like me. Very cool. Love already. And again, I'll pull that card back up just so we can see. I am with you because I am the Archangel of Healing. I am helping your own body as well as the physical bodies of others. I surround physical ailments with my healing energy of emerald green light, and this energy is absorbed where it is needed. I speak to healers through their thoughts and feelings. I help you to discern in this way if your life's purpose is to be a healer. I can help you to know which areas of healing to study and then assist with the aspects of your healing career. Call upon me whenever you may need help and know that I will be with you in an instant. Thank you, Archangel Raphael, for being here. I mean, I think that speaks pretty prominently to what we've just discussed in terms of working with your shadow self and finding some really good healing opportunities for you.
Yeah. Again, in that sitting with maybe some uncomfortable things that will come up, things that need to be healed. Maybe it's, the smaller you, the old you, as we like to call it here. Maybe it's a piece of your ego. Maybe, some part of you needs to be healed in some way to move forward. So, yeah, calling on Raphael for assistance with that. Very apropos.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got the Ascended Masters deck. I've got, I don't want to butcher the name, Katumi. Stay focused. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, Kutumi. You drew this card as a reminder to stay focused upon your intentions, desires, and priorities. Don't allow yourself to be distracted by short-term situations, dramas, or other people's demands. Keep a positive outlook about your dreams and imagine that they've already manifested into reality. Devote regular amounts of time toward your projects and priorities. Say no to distractions and you will see results. Interesting. I think he's just echoing what I just said. Again, paying attention to how we distract ourselves, from sitting with things and, looking at intentions, how we want to move forward coming out of this, new moon, this eclipse. Stay focused on the intentions, on your desires, what you want to have happen in your life, be it upgrading your relationship or finding a new relationship, and who you might have to be differently to attract, to manifest that person in your life, or not even being distracted with, because there's going to be, I think, if this eclipse is like other eclipse, there might be people in your life that have, are going through more intense changes or things uprooted. And, it's easy to get wrapped up into that. And it's not to say that you shouldn't care, but it's the art of allowing their journey to take place and sending them love, giving them love and support. But you don't have to take on their pain, because ultimately, if they're going through an intense change or transformation or, painful period, they're going to grow from it. They're going to learn from it. They're going to get what they need in their own karmic journey. And you love that. You honor that. You have respect for that, and, assist and support where you can. But staying focused on your own journey, your own karmic path, I think is important to stay focused on here as well.
Yeah, I fully agree. There's just a lot of power in, as you said, staying focused and knowing that what are your distractions, and then how are your relationships with, again, it doesn't have to be people. It could be money, food, alcohol, whatever it might be, and then social media, and then taking notice of what is distracting you and starting to dig in a little deeper so that you can find that authentic version of you, and then continue to move on so that when you go to make your new manifestations, especially as we get into the end of another year, it's coming into that time where we are going to be hit with a little more stress of the holidays. And that's where, again, triggers will come up. You're around family, you're around people that maybe don't necessarily resonate with who you are. You learn how to balance it a whole lot better, which this is just what the season's about, is learning how to really balance and breathe.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, yeah, if we have any questions, happy to answer anything. If anything you want clarification on, if you want a personal card pulled, anything that you've been experiencing over the last, 28 days, last few days as we come up to this eclipse, anything that you'd like guidance on, happy to address that here live. We can take it offline. Isa and myself are always available. You could send a message, request a free reading. Always happy to do that. Anything that we can do to support you here. Spicy barbecue. Not sure. She said holidays. She must know our lingo here.
That's Lynn LaFay.
Oh, Lynn. Mm-hmm. Hello. Yeah. Moving into the holidays, DAZE season. Absolutely.
It's an understatement. Yes.
Yes. Crazy. I just can't even believe it that it's Halloween, then it's Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, and it's 2024.
Woo! We love it. Awesome. All right. Well,
breathing huge amounts of love and kindness from this journey called life. Yes, absolutely. Love you, Barb. Thanks everyone for joining. Yeah, I don't see any questions, so thank you, Isa. Appreciate all that.
Thanks, Brian.
Great,
and
great guidance.
If you guys have any further questions, let us know. Social media, theinevitable.com. There's lots of great resources, and we're here for you whenever you feel ready or called or need a little more support. Thanks, Joe.
Absolutely.
Love you.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening in.
Bye.
Have a great new moon.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.